trouble. Ran right up in the knowledge. Now they back in the huddle. Now they know we can fight. Content given every week. Me and Dr. Rip Shot. Keep on bringing the heat. Now they know that we hitting. And they know we ain't quitting. Yo, she mind the genius. Keep on bringing and giving. Unity, unity, unity. Cause they know we ain't stopping. And they know they got problems. And they ran out of options. Cause we know we got a problem. Can't let it go unsolved. Brain breaks learning. Afrocentric history. We see tomorrow. Karma is karma. I see what I say. I hear the water. Till I see y'all fall off. Then I bring y'all up on note. I'm back up on my client winners. 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 Divine winners. Client winners. Client winner. Client winners. I'm with you. Ride with you. Master teacher. Create master. Client winners. Give respect to the elder. Client winners. Somebody out there looking for me. Client winners. Back up on my client winners on my toes. Somebody out there looking for me. Client winners. I'm mine. Client winners. I think there's somebody out there looking for me. Client winners. Back up on my client winners. I think there's somebody out there looking for me.
We have to live by my heart. We have to live by my heart. I have not done wrong. I have not robbed. I have not stolen. I have not framed people. I have not told lies. I have not stolen food. I was not stolen. I have not fornicated with the fornicator. I have not caused anyone to weep. I have not dissembled. I have not transgressed. I have not discussed secrets. I have brought no lawsuit. I am not wrong. I have not struck kill. I have not transgressed the law. I have not been hot except when I'm talking about Uncle Tom. I have not been I have not cursed. I have not been violent. I have not confounded truth. I have not been impatient. I have not cursed the God. What's up, though? How's everybody doing out there? It's good to see the family again. How you doing, Katrina Porter, Dondre Price, Joanne Cormonte. How you doing, Joan? You're an inspiration, you know. Again, I'm very happy that a lot of you are coming to watch this video. Over the years, many people have asked me, they say, Dr. Winters, I don't understand how the Egyptians called themselves black when they were not black, like a crayon or anything like that. They also remind me that the Egyptians had many complexions. Some were, brown, red bone, what we call red bone, yellow, all different types of colors. And all these people, in a sense, were part of the Egyptian family. Although, in a sense, they were part of the Egyptian family, many of you say, why would the greatest civilization on earth call themselves black? And this is really hard for a lot of people, because even today, many people hate to call themselves black, hate to be known as black. They're really afraid of that word. How you doing, Planet Wells and Illuminati? You know, they're afraid of this word because black is a very powerful word. But what we're going to do today, family, is that we're going to get into this word. We're going to get into this subject. And something I've been meaning to talk about a lot of times because so many people want to know. So many people want to find out exactly what's going on, you know. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and get started. Let me go to the slide program. Okay, why did the Egyptians call themselves black? Kemiu, black people. As you know, most of the, just about all of the Egyptian gods were painted black. Today, there's a campaign in Egypt to try to repaint many of their monuments. This is kind of sad, and it's sad because they're trying to take away this history. But even though they're trying to repaint many of the paintings in the tombs, and they're trying to make them look much more pale, or even look like they're white. You know, maybe mess with the noses, make the noses look a little bit more pointed. That doesn't matter because see, the one good thing is that those things that modern man create, the paints, the oils, these things they really don't have any properties that will allow them to last, you know, for millenniums. But think about the fact that the Egyptians, they made many of these tombs over 4,000 years ago. They painted many of these wonderful inscriptions and wonderful paintings, maybe 2, 3, 4,000 years ago, and yet they're still standing. That just shows, in a sense, the ingenuity. That just shows, in a sense, the creativity. That just shows you what African and black people can do. I want you to join my Patreon to see the slides. I'm on Twitter at Clyde Winters 8. Sometimes I'm on Twitter. You can you're on my you're looking at one of my YouTube videos now. I'd like you to press the like button, please. In addition to pressing the like button, subscribe. Come on, let's support the site. You can order my books at Amazon.com. This presentation has really made possible by my Patreon members. My Patreon members, they give me the support that allows me to buy the books, allows me to download articles. Yes. I print up a lot of articles. I use up a lot of ink. And I even sometimes had to go out to the libraries because I had to do the good research to make sure that when I come to you, family, that I'm bringing you the latest research. And I'm also, in a sense, trying to give you a direction in terms of knowing what you can do, how you can do it, and what's going on in our world. What is FBA? FBA is not a group. FBA is not an organism. FBA is a lineage. A lineage is lineal descent from an ancestor, ancestral pedigree. As a result, we are descendants of the African and Aboriginal blacks who built the United States. Yes. We, in a sense, are a very unique people. In fact, we're one of the most unique people on earth. And what makes it so unique is this. They found, in a sense, a mummified baby. This mummified baby is called Anzac. I sometimes say Anzac man, but it was a baby. And this baby, this skeletal remains, they go back 12,000 years. 12,000 years. The Anzac man carried the R haplogroup. Now they've tried to change it to C or some other number. But originally it was the R1 haplogroup. And they just tried to change to misdirect you, but I saw the early reports. And what makes it so very interesting, and what made it so scary to many of the foreigners and strangers who run this country, is that when they analyzed the genetic material, the genome of this skeleton, Anzac baby, they found, in a sense, that Anzac man carried the R1 haplogroup. That's a Y chromosome haplogroup. And what makes that such a very important haplogroup in relationship to foundational Black Americans is that there's many foundational Black Americans today. In fact, statistically, 22% of foundational Black Americans today carry the R1 haplogroup. That means that many of you are related transit man. And many of you, your ancestors have been here for 12,000 years. It's very important to remember, in a sense, that as an FBA person, that doesn't mean in the sense that all of us came from Africa. Only 200,000 people, they claim, were enslaved on the American soil from Africa. So the vast majority of FBA are descendants of the foundational Black American Aboriginals. These were the Aboriginals, the first people who lived here, the Indians. They called them Indians. Why? Because they were Black. So remember, you are FBA. Black is the name for melanated people. Today, many Blacks are ashamed of their dark hue and refuse to identify themselves as Blacks. They even go so far as to claim that no African and Negro group in history ever identified themselves as a Black population. This causes us to ask the question, did ancient civilizations identify their populations as Blacks? But remember, Black is the name for melanated people. Melanated African and Negro people have long recognized there was no single hue ascribed to Black people. Ancient Saharan art depicts ancient Africans as blacks, browns, reds, and yellows. Yes. There is no single phenotype for the African race that some people call Black people today. The historical evidence makes it clear. There's nothing wrong in using the term Black to describe dark melanated people. The melanated people of ancient Asia, Africa, and Europe have noted the difference between themselves and light-skinned Asians, Mongoloids, and contemporary Europeans or Caucasians. But let's look at this. Although we've recognized this difference, there is still something very interesting about ancient man, and what's very interesting about many of the founders of the greatest civilizations in the history of the world. These people usually describe themselves as being Black, or call themselves Black. They would be Black first, and it was based on culture, history, and land. For example, when you think about the Li Men were the founders of civilization in China. You see, they were the founders of the Chinese culture. And what does Li Men mean? Li Men means Black people. That's what they call themselves, Black people. In Egypt, as we know, we're going to talk about today, they call themselves the Kemiu or Kemiu. The Assyrians, yes, for a long time until maybe the last 10 years, most people thought the Assyrians were Caucasian people or some type of Syriac white Arabs. But no, the Assyrians, they called themselves Salmat-Kakadi. And what that means is the Black people. And of course, the Sumerians and the Akkadians who ruled ancient Sumer, they called themselves Sagiga, the Black people. But they weren't the only ones. We also find in many of the greatest civilizations over here in the Western Hemisphere, in the Americas, they also describe themselves as Black. For example, the Aztecs, they called themselves Mexica. And Mexica means lords of the Black land. Yes, the Aztecs, they were Black too. And of course, we know that the Olmec, they called themselves She, and She means what? Black people. But why would these people call themselves Black when we don't look Black? We don't look like a damn black crayon, but we call ourselves Black. This begs the question, why would these people declare they are Blacks when phenotypically they are not the color Black? In this video, I will discuss this issue looking at the greatest civilization in history, Egypt. To discuss this issue, I will use historical and linguistic sources. No. They did not call themselves Black like we think of in a sense of crayon. If you want to find out more about these ancient civilizations, of course, buy my book, The World History of the Black Race and Egyptian Language. And also what we're going to do in this particular discussion, I'm going to talk a lot about what's called comparative and historical linguistics. And I use a Diopian method in terms of identifying relationships between words. And that's what we're going to do in this talk, is we're going to, in a sense, look at this word, kamitu, and try to determine why would they call themselves black. So try to get my book, African Historical Linguistic Methods. Diop said that Kamit meant the black people in black land. Here you can see the hieroglyphic sequence for Kamit, Egypt, with the sign depicting the crocodile scales on the charcoal on the left side. This is the part of the glyph. This thing that looks like a point, looks like it has 1, 2, 3, 4, five fingers on it. This, in a sense, is what's considered the charcoal, which represents the black. Then we see the sign for land. So again, this is the sign for Kemet region. Even though most people accept the research of anti-Diop, anti-Diop also has some haters. One of the major haters who are against, in a sense, some of the research of Diop is a young man called Asar Imhotep. Asar Imhotep, he pretends, in a sense, that he knows a lot about linguistics. He pretends, in a sense, in fact, he doesn't. He's done tens of videos trying to tell people how to do linguistics when the guy doesn't really know anything about linguistics. He really needs to take my course, and maybe he can learn more about what he's doing. But again, he attacks Diop. Asar, his arguments are these. Asar Imhotep of the Amun-Ra scribe, he's attacked Diop's theory that Kemet means black people. First of all, Asar does not know linguistics or research methods. When conducting research, you never accept the null hypothesis. Asar's hypothesis is that Kemet does not mean black people. The null hypothesis is that Kemet indeed means black people. There are two types of errors in any research. Type 1 error, that's rejecting a true null hypothesis, and type 2 error, accepting a false null hypothesis, i.e. claiming a relationship between variables which does not exist. Asar made a type 2 error in his Kemet proposition. He uses the Cognation data to claim, in a sense, that Diop doesn't know what he's doing, but in reality, he didn't know what he was doing. The Cognation data falsified his claim instead, because it supported the null hypothesis that the term Kemet means black people. Asar falsified his own hypothesis. He claims that Diop's interpretation of Kemet as black people was not supported by Cognation terms. Let's look at this. Asar, in support of his theory, he cited the Cognation terms ha-meet. And we see, in a sense, the consonants KMT, and Kam means his, her mother. And Kamaita means the late or deceased person. The meaning of these terms make it clear that Kamit and Kamaita refer to people or individuals, right? Doesn't it? It's referring to what? Mother and dead people. These terms are cognate to Egyptian Kemet, black people. As a result, Asar's hypothesis is incongruent with his own findings. He in using those words, he falsified himself. What that means, in a sense, is that he proved himself to be wrong. But that would happen with someone who lacks any ability in linguistics and is just, in a sense, a person trying to gain fame, a person trying to get a name for himself. He's just like one of those rappers in the old days, and they go out and build up a beef against another rapper, and then they use that as a jumping point to try to get status or get some notoriety. And that's all Asar Imhotep does, is that he attacks anti-Diop, not because anti-Diop's work is wrong. He attacks it because he's trying to get a little shine, But a liar doesn't win. How can anyone lose a debate with Asar when Asar could not validate his hypothesis? The debate illustrates that Asar fails to know anything about comparative linguistics. Comparative linguistics is based on word correspondence and sound analogy. If Asar knew comparative linguistics, he would have abandoned his theory once he looked at his own research. Yes. Once he looked at the Cognation terms Kamit and Kemaita, he would have seen, in a sense, that they both related to persons. If they both related to persons or they related to people, then therefore it would naturally be congruent with the Egyptian term Kemet, which means, in a sense, people. But again, Asar falsified his own hypothesis. He claims that Diop's interpretation of Kemet as black people was not supported by Cognation terms. But as you can see, those terms that he showed make it clear that Kamit and Kemaita refer to people or individuals. These terms are cognate to Egyptian comment. As a result, Assar's hypothesis is incongruent with his own findings. Please. That's why I teach this research course. I teach this research course so people can really understand not only how to do research, not only how to look at evidence, but how to interpret that evidence and how to read the material, read all type of material, linguistic, anthropological, historical, law. Learn how to read it so you can interpret it and you won't make mistakes such as the mistakes made by Assar. Assar-Imhotep for years maintained that anti-Diop never confirmed that Kemiu was a name for both Egypt and the people of Egypt. He argues that Diop made mention that Kemiu was a name for Egypt and its people, but that the master teacher, anti-Diop, failed to linguistically demonstrate that Kemiu had both meanings. Assar again was lying. Yes, he was lying, you see, because Diop did show that Kemiu meant people and land or black people. He showed it, and he also wrote it out, and he did this in the UNESCO History of Africa, in the General History of Africa, Volume 2, Ancient Civilizations of Africa. The great anti-Diop, Sheikh anti-Diop, what he does in a sense is that he breaks down why we know that Kemet means black people. Assar, the rest of you haters, the rest of you trying to make a name for yourself, attacking the master linguist, the master anthropologist, the master in a sense forensic scientist. Stop trying to attack this man when you don't know what you're talking about. You know, Diop, in a sense, he wrote a beautiful piece. And in this thing, he said, the Egyptians as they saw themselves. It is no waste of time to get the views of those principally concerned. How did the ancient Egyptians see themselves? Into which ethnic category did they put themselves? What did they call themselves? The language, literature left to us by the Egyptians of the pharaonic speech epoch, they tell us about this. And that's why you got to read articles. You got to learn how to do research. This book, this volume of the UNESCO history is free. It's online. If someone bothered to do the research, they could find this. And they wouldn't have to make a fool of themselves like Assar-Imhotep. The Egyptians had only one term to designate themselves. That was Kemet, the Negroes or the blacks. This is the strongest term existing in the pharaonic tongue to indicate blackness. It is accordingly written with a hieroglyph representing a length of wood charred at the end and not crocodile scales. This word is the etymological origin of the well-known root Kemet, which has proliferated in modern anthropological literature. The Egyptians, they preferred the expression Ramet Kemet, the men of the country of the blacks, or the men of the black country. Again, in a sense, we see the Ramet, in a sense, that related in a sense to man, Kemet in a sense to the black or the black man. Very important to understand. That is one of the reasons why sometimes, in a sense, you have to look seriously at, the language. You got to know what you're talking about. Just like many people, some of my misguided brothers and sisters who, believe in a sense that America is the old world. And the reason they believe that America is the old world is they see names like Palatine for a city of Palestine. They see the word Memphis for a lot of cities. And they believe in a sense that because you find the word Memphis over here for a city, that relates to ancient Egypt. No, Memphis is not the Egyptian word for the city. Memphis is a Greek word or it's a Latin word. And yet people, in a sense, falsely believe that just because they see these words that are from Greek and Latin, and then they believe that this shows that this is the old world. No, this isn't the old world. We know what the old world is. It's over there somewhere. You see, here's some important parts of the Egyptian thing. We already discussed the fact, in a sense, that Ramet, the men of the country, are the black men or the men of the black country. This is also what Diop wrote. Let me read it. In Egyptian, words are normally followed by determinatives, which indicate their exact sense. And for this particular expression, Egyptologists suggested Kem, black, and that the color qualifies the determinative, which follows it and which signifies country. Accordingly, they claim the translation should be the black earth, from the color of the loam, or the black country, and not the country of the black men, as we should be inclined to render it today with black Africa and white Africa in mind. Perhaps so, but if we apply this rule rigorously to Kemet, we are forced to concede that here the adjective black qualifies the determinative, which signifies the whole people of Egypt, shown by the two symbols for man and woman, and the three strokes below them, which indicate the plural. Thus, if it is possible to voice a doubt as regards the expression kami, it is not possible to do so in the case of the two adjectives of nationality, you see. And so, coming true, this is it. So we can see here that Diop is explaining his reasoning for why he proves, in a sense, that Kemet is the name of the Egyptians and that they call themselves the black people. You see, it was not just used to identify the land as Ansar-Imhotep would try to pretend, and other haters of Diop. You see, you have to read the literature. You have to go to the sources. This is a secondary source, of course, but again, in a sense, that is still Diop in this particular chapter in the UNESCO history of Africa. He's using, in a sense, primary evidence. And what is the primary evidence? The primary evidence is the language itself, the words themselves. This is what researchers do. This is how they prove their propositions. This is how they prove their ideas, you see. Here we can see some other cases of this is from the various Egyptian dictionaries. And we can see that in this dictionary, we see and we see, what does it mean? It means black strong. It means the country. It means, in a sense, black cow coming through. So again, in a sense, we can see by going to the dictionary how Kim is, in a sense, related to black people. See? Don't just take everybody's word for something. Check it out. Do some of your own research. We've got too much now with Google. Google has a lot of sources online. And with Google having sources online, you can prove these people wrong. And that's why we know, in a sense, that Ansar-Imhotep, even though he has a strong following, and many of the people listen to this guy, they're listening to a liar. You see, and what makes it even more interesting is that what Diop shows is not only in a sense were the people recognized, the Egyptian people, the regular common man, the regular man or woman was recognized, in a sense, as being in a sense black. They also recognized that their gods were black. You see, let me read this. Finding black and Negroes a divine epithet, invariably used for the chief beneficent gods of Egypt, whereas all the male violent spirits are qualified as Deseret or red. We also know that to Africans, this form applies for the white nations. It is practically certain that this held good for Egypt too. But I want in this chapter to keep to the least debatable facts. The Kim black qualificative is applied to Hathor, the goddess Hathor, the goddess Apis, the god Men, Thoth, Set, Kemet, the black woman Isis, or Ansar, which would be Osiris. On the other hand, Seth, the sterile desert, is qualified by the term Deseret or red. The wild animals which Horus fought to create civilization are qualified as Deseret red, especially the hippopotamus. So again, in a sense, we see that there's this dichotomy between the term black and Deseret red. We see, in a sense, that it's the blacks. It's the blacks, in a sense, who represent goodness. It's the blacks who represent, in a sense, future and hope. That's one of the reasons why we see not only the Egyptians called the people black, they also called their gods black. You see? Yes. For example, here we have Kamiwur, the great Negro. That's another name for Asar or Osiris. We have Kam the black, the name of the god. Kamit the black, the name of the goddess. So again, they put that T on the end of Kemet because that's the feminine. You see, and again, we can go to the dictionary, and again we see these definitions. Cam, Egyptian. And then we can see here in a sense, Kemet, the holy herd of the black cattle. We can see Kemet, the black land or Egypt. See Kemet, the black land or Egypt again. Kemet, the large granite pot or now. We see Kemet, the completion or final account. Kemet, the black. So again, we can see in a sense that this term Cam, yes, it relates to black, but it also relates to black people. Stop it. Stop being a hater. Stop trying to fight Diop. Diop was a master linguist. He was teaching us. But now we run into a problem. We run into a great problem when we really think about Kemet, if we want to apply Kemet or Cam to the phenotypical or what we would call a black race. This is a problem. See, and why is it a problem? Okay, Cam was not associated with phenotype because on the Ramsey III table of nations, the Egyptians and the Hisi or Cushites were depicted as similar, but they were given different names. Let's look right here. Here we have these are the four figures in the table of nations that was made by Ramses III. A, that's the Egyptian. B, that would be in a sense the Tehenu. You can see the braid on the side and all that type of stuff. And then in a sense we see that C, that is the Nahisi or Cushites. And then finally we see D, which is the Amu. And as you can see, look here. Here you can see that the Egyptians, Kemet, and the Nahisi, they're both identical in terms of how they're represented. They're both phenotypically what we would call a Negro or an African or a black. And so what this means in a sense is that there was no difference really between Egyptians and the Nahisi. Or sometimes they refer to them as the Cushites. And so, wait a minute. You see, if they didn't call themselves black to identify their race, we must ask the question again: why did the Egyptians call themselves black? We need this question answered because we can see now that the Egyptians and the Nahisi, phenotypically, they were the same. There was no difference. But they had different names. Why? But, this is kind of answered by an Egyptologist called Sandro Capo Chi Chi. Sandro Capo Chi Chi, he has a PhD in linguistics from the University of Paris. I think right now he's at Harvard University, and he's trying to do some research because he wants to use linguistics to be able to interpret African art or Egyptian art. But Capo Chi Chi, he explained, and this is very interesting. Capo Chi Chi explained that in comparison with the white crown, the red crown has been described with the word Kim, which is most often translated as black, but which was therefore rather mean dark in this context. So let's look over here on the right-hand side. Here we have the white crown, and then we have the red crown, you see. Now this is very interesting because how can the red crown be called, in a sense, Kim? We know that usually, in a sense, when we think about red, we think about what? We think about the desert red, we think about the desert. But among the Egyptians, the red crown was called Kim, the same as you call Kim for the black people or the black race. This is interesting, especially when we compare the use of Kemet as both black and red in comparison to the Semitic word Adam. I know many of you have read the Bible, and in Genesis, it says that the first man was Adamu, or Adam. Very interesting, this Adam, you see. Capo Chi Chi explained that this term for black Cam was also used to describe the color of the soil of Egypt due to silt in the form of Kemet. This is like the Semitic word Adam, which was created and modeled from the red earth, Adamat. The Egyptian Kemetru, Kemet, were created and modeled according to a tradition recorded as early as the 5th dynasty by Khanum, the ram-headed potter, from the silt of the Kemet. And what does the Bible dictionary tell us? Look, The Bible dictionary tells us that Adamu not only means red, but it also means the black soil. So let's think about this. Adamu was red, he was the black soil. Then we have, in a sense, the Egyptians who said that they were kemet, black, but then also they called the red crown black too, or kemet. So then, therefore, in a sense, this may give us a hint on why they call themselves the Kemetru. Thus, the Egyptian word Kem is a cognate of Semitic dim, to be red. In fact, Egyptian Kem, to be black, will be cognitive in Semitic, i.e. Sirach, Ukama, black, with the Talmudic Hebrew, Ukam, Ukama, black. As a result, we can see that Adam and Kim both mean black man. Yes, yes, yes. So the Egyptians, they were the black man. The first man created by God, the first creation of God, the imperial person who came on this planet as created by God was a black man, Adamu. Now we can get the real meaning of it. See, the cognition between Adamu and Kem explains why the Egyptians called themselves black. They call themselves black because they recognize themselves as Amma's chosen people. Yes, yes. The chosen people who were created from the soil. See, when the ancient Egyptians, they said that God lived in the heavens. But see, they knew in a sense that, okay, during the daylight, we had the sun, but at night, in a sense, the heavens was what? Black. It was dark. When you looked into the sky, you could see the dark with the stars. But at the same time, what this meant to the Egyptians, what it meant to these people was that they were the chosen people of God. And not only were they the chosen people of God, they were also, in a sense, in the bosom of God. Because see, the black sky, you see, which represented the divine, which represented majesty. See, this made them understand that they were the black people. They were the chosen people. Today, many people who are Jews, they call themselves, in a sense, they call themselves the chosen people. But now we see that the Egyptians were the first people on the planet to see themselves as the chosen people of God. And that's why they call themselves the black people. They call themselves the black people because they felt, in a sense, that they were the supreme. They were the epitome. They were the first frequency of man. And they represented, in a sense, God's on earth. See? They didn't call themselves necessarily just black because they were black as in opposition to whites, because not many white people wasn't around them. We know, in the sense of the Nahisi or the Cushites, they were painted black too, but they didn't call themselves black. But the Egyptians called themselves black because they saw themselves as the chosen people of God. They saw themselves as the inheritors of the tradition, of the creativity of God, because it was God who created man. It was God who created the earth. It was God who created the many, in a sense, things that might good for human beings. And it was the Egyptian man, the black man, who also invented things, who also invented, in a sense, objects. They made life good for man. Yes, yes, yes. So in conclusion, both the people and gods of Egypt were called Kem, or black. The Egyptians called themselves black because, in a sense, they recognized that they were the firstborn people of God, the chosen people of God. Thus, the Kem meant both land and people. For mankind came from the soil in the service to the Creator. And that the Egyptians, they felt that they were the best servants of God. You know, this is a good example of why we need more researchers. I'll tell you about Ansar Imhotep, how he was able or unable to really see the truth in Diop's interpretation of Cam as a term that represented black people. He wanted to just go to the black land. No, we see now that he was wrong. But see, he was wrong because of the fact that he didn't know how to do research. If you're a serious researcher, If you really want to learn how to do research, if you really want to contribute to writing and telling our story, your story, you should join my class. This discussion of why Egyptians call themselves Black highlight the fact that we need more researchers to research hidden segments of Black history in the United States and the world generally. This is a picture. This picture comes from when I was on Tariq Nasheed's latest film called, in a sense, American Maroon. I talked about, the ancient, the Aboriginal Blacks and stuff like that. You see, it's very important because studying Black history is not to find out how great you were. It is to find out what mistakes we made. And this is what Neely Fuller teaches us. Neely Fuller teaches us in the sense that we need to know more about what happened to us in the past and what's happening to us today. Yes, history is made every day. History is just not a series of events from the past. History also relates to who and what we're doing today. And that's why we need researchers. That's why we need people to join my class. Amos Wilson, The Falsification of African Consciousness, made it clear that knowing your history will reinvigorate your mind and spirit. To Wilson, we should see history as psychohistory. Since the aim of writing Black people out of history is to destroy any sense of intellectual or social self-esteem for African people. Excuse me for a minute. Wilson noted that in the final analysis, European history's principal function is to first separate us from ourselves and separate us from the reality of the world, to separate us from the reality of our history, and to separate us from its ramifications. Yes. You have a story. You have something to tell other Black people, not only about your life, but about our entire existence. You see? You need to join my class. Black history matters. History situates your place in society. History tells you who you are. History promotes or discourages self-esteem. Yes. Every day, our children are being subjected to falsehoods. Our children are being subjected to lies. It's not only in Florida. It's throughout the United States. And many people don't know this. Many of you out there, you never thought about the fact that the Egyptians would call themselves Black people because of the fact that they were identified as being the first creations of God, the chosen people of God. That never, in a sense, crossed your mind. See? But when you do research, you can find out about things that seem to have been strange. You can find out about things that seem to be difficult by looking into it further, by doing the research, taking the time, you see. And when you know how to do the research, it makes it even better. You see, the foundation of Black American that knows their history cultivates self-esteem and is motivated to seek success. Yes. It's like a new awakening. It's like the child blossoming. It's like growing. It's like moving. It's like being, in a sense, in a dynamic state. And we are dynamic people. We are unique people. We're FBA. But in a sense, that doesn't mean that we know everything. I don't know everything. And I don't think there's no one that knows everything, but we can know more about some things by doing research and by knowing how to get the information so we can share it with other people. Black history matters to Caucasians. It matters to white. We saw that in the last election. We see how now they're really trying hard to try to get Black people to vote, And then people say, well, why do they want Black people to vote? Why don't they go and get the letter people, LGBTQ, whatever they are, get them to vote, or go to the Asians, or go to, in a sense, the Latinos. They know, for one thing, that we vote as a bloc, but even more than that, they know our truth. Yes, they know our truth. And what is our truth? When you study the census, it was a period of 40 years where they say we were 10 million. Well, they say we were only 10 million people in this country. And we've been 16% in this country since the 1950s. Now get out of here. How can people only remain 16 as many babies as foundational Black Americans have had? No. We're really 100 million strong, if not more. That's why they want you to vote, but they're not going to tell you. But see, you can show it and you can prove it when you know how to do the research. See, people love a lie. And they love a lie because a lie makes them feel comfortable. But see, the researcher, in a sense, he goes beyond the lie. He tries to find the truth. He tries, in a sense, to get the information and spread it to the people so people can have, in a sense, the confidence and have the receipts and the knowledge to be able to get away and move away from, lacking self-esteem or lacking empty esteem. You see? Because see, many people suffer from CAIDS. And what is CAIDS? Culturally acquired identity immune deficiency syndrome. Yes, CAIDS. That's a debilitating mental illness that many Black people suffer from. And what CAIDS is that Black people lose their sense of who they are. You see? They're no longer immune, in a sense, to whiteness. And because they're no longer immune to whiteness, they lose their identity as a Black person, and they like to pretend or think that they're white. Many of these people become Uncle Toms or other people, in a sense, that abuse Black people or keep Black people down, you see. But when you know your history, then that can make a big difference, you see. Look at all the stories that need to be told. Every time you look at a movie, let's take they clone Tyrone. It's always about the ghetto. It's always about prostitutes, pimps. It's always about things like that. But there's other parts of our history that can be more significant. What about our Aboriginal experience? What about moving west? What about our explorers who did great things? What about our women who've contributed much to society instead of, in a sense, always be looked down as that old hoe or that old vagabond or that old bitch or whatever we want to call it, bring our sisters down? No, we're more than that. And we need to know more about that. But the only thing is that we lack it because we don't have the researchers. We don't have the people who want to tell the stories, who want to tell our stories, our history, because there's things they're hiding from us. But you join my class, you'll know how to retrieve this information. The mission of my research course is this. This course is the Afrocentric Researcher. In this course, you will learn research methods that can help you write and conduct research in the business, educational, historical, linguistic, and anthropological fields, you see. Some of our people who've been in my class, such as Reverend Shock Matthews or Amra Angie and Anderson, these people, in a sense, they were in my class and they've done good research. They've not only done the research, they've also, in a sense, published their research, you see. Reverend Matthews, he's showing a lot of research that deals with the psychology. He's trying to explain what happened to us that have allowed Europeans to misuse us and to abuse us. Amra, she's done research on the drum. She's a drummer. And what she's done is she's shown that inspirational aspect of the drum that allows us, in a sense, to not only get rhythm, not only get the beat, but allows us, in a sense, to be alive and to communicate certain feelings. They joined my class. After they were in my class, after they learned some research techniques, they've written articles. And in fact, Reverend Dr. Matthews, he's working on his book, and also Amra. So look forward to that. In addition to my students who have written articles and research papers and just trying to spread knowledge, two of my other students are Shanice Lindsay. And Shanice Lindsay, she's from the UK, and she's written a beautiful book called A Black King of Anglo-Saxon England. Yes, you didn't know it was Black Kings, did you? Yes. And her book is about King Alpha. What makes her book so beautiful is that Shanice not only goes into, in a sense, the life of King Alpha, she also goes back and she shows how black people in Britain, the Baradanacs, have been there for 22,000 years. 22,000 years. See, over in England, there's not really any books that people can turn to that their children can read and feel good about themselves. And what makes this book so good about that Shanice has written is that Shanice has written a book that adult can read and also that child can read. And that child can have greater self-esteem. That child can feel better about themselves. And that child, by knowing their history, can probably avoid catching CAIDS, culturally acquired identity immune deficiency syndrome. And then Beckett, Beckett, she wrote a very beautiful book. It's called The Black Mother's Wound. And this book is very important. And you got to try to get The Black Mother's Wound. Because, see, what she did in her book is that she discussed an issue that we don't really want to talk about as foundational Black Americans. We don't want to talk about the fact that sometimes our mothers have done things to really hurt us. Everybody wishes they had a super mom or that good mama. We all love our moms. But we know also that our moms have said things to us or treated us in a way that made us feel not so good as children and even as adults. And what Beckett has done is that she's written a beautiful book that explains, in a sense, why our moms sometimes carry these pains, carry these traumas from their experience in this European society, and that they've taken out their traumas and their negativity on us. But what she does is that Beckett, what makes this book so wonderful, it's good for men and women too, because I know in a sense is that she gives you exercise in the book. First, she tells you about a situation. She explains how the phenomenon existed. Then she gives you an exercise where you can try to work out or reason out how to resolve some of that trauma that your mom has caused you. Check out these books. You see? See, I'm not going to lie and say that Shanice and Beckett may didn't already have these ideas or had a desire to write these books, or Reverend Matthews and Amber had a desire to maybe, in a sense, write articles. But what I'm saying, in a sense, is that by joining my research course, by joining my research class, it allowed them, in a sense, to get the skills to be better able to interpret it. Also, one of my students, Cheryl, what she did is that she has a line of clothing, and she sells clothing. And when she took my class, she didn't take my class to write history or linguistics. What she did is that she took my class so she could learn the research methods to help her to be able to sell more of her products, to sell more of her clothing line, you see? Yes. My research project, my research class is about teaching you how to do research, teaching you how to find the information that can help you to make more money or to be able to share with the rest of the world your ideas, you see? Join my course. But most importantly, be B1. What is B1? B1 is Black first. Grab, if you're next to somebody, grab that sister, grab that brother, grab your son, grab your daughter, grab your husband, grab your wife, your girlfriend, and just say, I love you. Say, I love you. And then we're B1. Put B1 in the chat, please, you see. Put that fire emoji to show that you are down with the program. And most importantly, you see, remember we are B1, Black first. Love yourself. Put a like on this video and subscribe. Again, if you want to find out about the history of Black people around the world, get my book, The World History of the Black Race. In this book, I tell you about every continent and every Black civilization that was on that continent. If you want to learn more about our language, get Egyptian language. It talks about not only the Egyptian language, but also some of the languages that we speak over in America. And if you're so concerned and you really want to understand how to work with and understand more about the relationship between various ancient languages, get my book, African Historical Linguistics, Anti-Diopian Comparative and Historian Linguistic Methods. This is a good book for people who are really interested in trying to compare words and languages. For example, one of the biggest words among many Aboriginal Blacks today is Niji. Hey, Niji. And they believe in a sense. They're so proud of this word. And you know what? They believe in a sense that the word Niji is a word in a sense that disassociates itself from their African ancestry. Yeah, we're all from Africa, baby. But some of us have been here for 12,000 years on this continent, not longer. But the thing is that Niji is a Mandingo word, which means hello. So when they're saying Nietzsche, all they're doing is saying greeting you in an African language, but they don't know that. They don't know that because they haven't done the research. They do not know the roots. They do not know the creativity of our people. They do not know the long interactions and relationship between Black people in America, Black people in Africa, you see? So when they're going around saying Nietzsche, that doesn't disassociate themselves from Africa. You're saying an African word, an African greeting. And the reason is this is that many of the, everybody was a Mandingo, but many Mandingos lived on the East Coast, and the Lenape and other people, they, in a sense, they copied off the Black people because, see, there was a lingua franca, there was a code language, you see. Because of the fact that many people spoke various Indian languages, what they needed was a common root language, or what's called a lingua franca. And a lingua franca is a language that people use to communicate when there's more than one language being spoken. And at the base of this language was the Mandi language. That's why today people have that greeting Niji, which they think is Indian, when really, in a sense, it's an African word, Mandingo word. Again, please join my Patreon. I want to thank all the members of my Patreon that are listening to this. And remember, in a sense, is that it's you, my Patreon, that, in a sense, make it possible for me to be able to do the show. Go to my Patreon to see the slides. Join my Patreon. Also, I want to thank those people who've been giving me, who've been cash apping me money. Thank you for sending that cash app. It helps too. Any little bit helps, because, see, these books, articles, these things cost money to get. You know. Thank you. Okay, now as you can see, family, this is I hope you guys got something out of this. It's we still have a few minutes left. If you have any questions, put them in the chat, and I'll try to answer them. At least a couple of minutes. If you have any questions, if not, we can just end it. Don't forget to put a like on the. Don't forget to put a like on the video, and make sure, in the sense, that you like it and subscribe. Okay, I don't see any questions, so we'll just call it quits. Thank you. And next time, I'm trying to decide. I'm trying to decide, in a sense, what I'm going to talk to next. So you guys take care, and thank you for coming to the program. Everybody have a good evening. Bye.